gonna pick.
Yeah, Michael, you're only allowed to have 3 shows you want for next season.
I know.
That's
I
how
know,
that works.
because no one's gonna pick them.
That's what we all think.
No, yeah, I know. Just kidding. I realistically, one of them's probably something someone else is gonna want to take early on. The other maybe.
I'm excited for all of us to have the same exact set of shows they want somehow.
It's crazy.
It'd be crazy.
What's even better is that I know it doesn't, because Windbreaker's not in my third. Is it gonna be a good show? Yeah, but I know someone else is taking it, so I don't care enough to be like, yeah, I want to pick that. Is this gay? It doesn't say romance, so it might not technically be gay. This looks very...
Like I said, there's a girls' love show that Mal doesn't have the romance tag on, so you tell me what's going on this season.
No, I'm specifically looking at many sides of voice actor radio. That looks very gay.
Isn't that what also girls love?
It's not labeled as romance.
But isn't it also girls love?
It can only be love if it's labeled as a romance.
But this is my point.
It's just comedy drama slice of life.
Clearly, it's just not love.
The issue is that of the description paints it as they paint a picture perfect friendship for their listeners.
Hold on, I'll give you an answer, Michael.
They were roommates.
Which one is this?
The many sides of voice actor radio.
Yeah, it's girls love. That's the second girls love non-romance.
I assume Whisper Me Your Love Song is like, okay, Whisper Me Your Love Song is...
Whisper Me Your Love Song does have it. This was the one I was talking about where it's girls love and doesn't have it.
Okay.
I swapped it in my brain.
Ah, fuck.
I know.
Wait, maybe I have to switch out one of my shows because I did make a joke earlier about something. I did say a specific set of things. No thought, head empty, only music.
Michael, you can't.
One of my shows wasn't a music
Michael,
show.
you should not do that. The last person who picked 3 shows that were all the same had them all go off in a row.
Yeah, I don't care.
I know that.
Don, you gotta realize,
here,
if Girls Band Cry goes off early, just means I don't need to stay 2 episodes behind on it.
That's true. Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. It's us. We're back. Here live with Save or Slay. Anime Fray. Winter 2024. Finale. We're here. And so, as we do with every finale, we're not going to talk about what we've done, unless what we've done is finishing a show that's been on the podcast but was voted off. So, let's open the door. I did not finish Tamer yet. It just didn't happen. I will. I only have the 1 episode left of it. I'm sure it's fine. You want to talk about it? I know you and Michael watched it.
Yeah,
It's not a whole ton to talk about.
Yeah.
It was a fine ending. It didn't have any like crazy like, oh wow, this was amazing. But it was like
what I expected.
Good, nice ending for where it got to. It felt nice where it ended.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
John,
and very much setting up for more stuff to happen.
John, you watched Solo Leveling all the way, right?
Yep, it was fine. I mean, it's about what you expect from that show.
None of us also finished it, right? It was just
I watched
Sean?
through episode 11. Episode 12 wasn't dubbed yet, so I didn't watch it.
Okay.
Is it dubbed yet?
How do you feel, Michael?
It's episode 11's fucking buck wild. I thought shit kind of went crazy. Not in terms of like character writing. The writing in the show is kind of, but like, it's cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
The show is just very cool
So
when it wants to be.
Let's
it definitely
hold.
follows the rule of cool. I also think it's a little bit like contrived at times, but
Well, yeah, no, it is absolutely. It is one of the most generic like action power fantasy things ever. Like most of the time, but also like the fight scenes are sick.
Mhm.
Episode 11 ends on like a really crazy like cliffhanger-ish thing, and I'm sad I haven't been able to watch 12 because it just
I mean, didn't
what
you do the
happens
same
when your
thing as
voice
it
actor
earlier
gets
where it's
COVID.
like, oh no, I lost the thing.
Yeah, no, they do that, and boy, does it piss me off that
Oh
happens
no,
a
I
second
lost
time.
my out. whatever shall I do but just beat everything.
What should I do other than win?
I will say it did find a clever solution this time to that situation. I'll give the show credit. I did like how it like solved that problem this time instead of just being like, oh, I'll just kill everything. He actually found like a good solution to like getting out of his situation. But it still was one of those things that's like, really? That's how we're doing that?
And then before we move on to it, did anyone finish anything else that is not a sign of affection?
I didn't finish it.
You didn't finish the sign of affection?
I worked 6 of 7 days
Fair
at a
enough.
funeral. I really didn't have time to do anything this week.
You're really gonna like the last episode of it. I really liked the
we'll
last
see.
episode of it. Very pretty episode. Probably the prettiest episode the show's had. It has some really, really well done shots in it. There are a couple of odd things that get brought up in the episode where I'm like, why are we doing this in episode 12? That's an odd thing to bring up in the last episode of the show.
Any manga.
It ties basically every loose end up to a point where arguably the show could not get a sequel and it would be in a fine spot.
That's romance for you.
Yeah. I don't particularly have any gripes with it. Outside of that one thing. Basically, John, she teaches him a sign that he definitely should know by now. And by a sign, she teaches him,
I mean, the word does start with N.
she teaches him no, okay. Two things you would think this man would know by now, and were probably in the book she gave him. So that's a little silly, but otherwise I really liked the episode.
It was a good episode.
I will say, because of how I feel about the final episode of one of our shows, this will not be the only time on the podcast history where I say this. I've said it before about some other stuff. Definitely, regret a personal choice I made last week because the show I decided not to slay because I thought it was going to have a really good ending. I don't like this week, and we'll talk about it when we get there. So in that regard, I would have liked a sign of affection in this top 3 in relation to that. But where we stood last week, I don't regret the vote. I don't regret the way I voted. Is how I feel.
I had nothing else I could have voted for, so it doesn't really matter what I did.
Well, and that was where I was at. Was I voted the show I didn't think should be top 3. And what I will say is that last week that was Mr. Villains. This week, maybe I don't feel that way. About how I'm very excited to talk about this top 3. But before we get into it, Michael, Mason, you guys want to talk about A Sign of Affection in terms of its last episode?
I mean, I thought it was a good episode. I will say it's Sign of Affection. Doing Sign of Affection things.
Yeah,
it didn't really change what it's been doing episode to episode. So
Yeah, it just was the finale to what Sign of Affection was. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was
Fine.
good.
Yeah, it was a good episode. It was more Sign of Affection.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad show. It just,
The other thing outside of that sign thing that was a little weird for me is that she gets her passport at the end of the episode, which certainly feels like it should be a much bigger deal than a shot where she goes, I have it, and that's that. Which again is my point of it really feels like it just ties a bow on everything real quick at the end so that there's like nothing you are waiting for. In that regard, that's probably like the only one of the things it does where I'm like, maybe she shouldn't have done that. Maybe you should have just like let her keep working for it, and you don't need to show me she gets her. I'm gonna assume she gets the passport eventually. You don't gotta show me she gets it in what seems like a fairly quick amount of time for what is left in the show. But again, that's a very minute gripe. Well, boys, with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, there's going to be spoilers and harsh language for our remaining 3 shows. And if you are not aware, our remaining 3 shows, in the order we're going to talk about them in, are Dungeon Meshi, Hokkaido Girls Are Super Adorable, and Mr. Villain's Day Off. So let's get right into it with Dungeon Meshi. So let's be clear. Episode 13 and 14 are out. We just watched episode 12. I think that's a good call. Because the ending of episode 12 is very much a seasonal cliffhanger, I would say. Is how it feels. or at least feels like a good enough seasonal cliffhanger to end on. So where we left off, Phelan is dead, very dead, and thus we have to figure out the solution. And Marcel expresses that gathering the body and taking it up to the resurrection office is a bad idea because it will potentially weaken the bond of the soul with the body, and might reduce the chance of a resurrection happening in this particular case. So what we should do instead is practice the dark arts. To which everyone goes, "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" And she goes, "Yeah, you heard me. I do this. Don't worry about it. Do you want her back alive or not? I do. We're doing it." And Leos is like, yeah, no, I agree. So what do we gotta do? And she goes, "Put the body back together." And they go, "There's a lot of bones in here." And Leos goes, "That's fine. I know canine bones real well. We're gonna play we're gonna do a bone sorting game, and solve this." And that is what they do. They sort some bones, and restore Phelan's skeleton back together. And then dark magic happens, and the scene is rad as fuck. And she's brought back to life. There we go. We then have a lot of touching scenes upon the reunion of Phelan with her brother and with Marcel. Very gay, very good. We had a scene where the two of them are bathing together. And I don't think any part of this scene is particularly bothersome or lasts too long. Everything about how this scene is directed and the purpose it serves is really good, in my opinion. You use the setting and the scene to have a character interaction that, has reason for the characters to not be fully clothed, as in to talk about what they see about each other's bodies and the state that they are in. And it's a good old scene, and they're adorable together. And then we go to Cook, and Senshi makes a terrifying mistake, which is he forgot what Leos told him last week, which was, don't start a fire by the dragon. That's not a good idea, and thus Senshi explodes. Thankfully, or maybe not, Phelan seems to automatically cast spells without incantations, and just does it at will and saves him. We also get a Senshi dick shot. Mainly a bulge, but wild.
Bro's packing.
He's packing. And then they make some pizza. And some soup. I forget what all. They make pizza, soup, and meat. And Leos gets very, very upset because everybody is trying to compare the dragon meat to a different flavor they've had before, and he disagrees. It's dragon meat. You should let it be dragon meat. It doesn't have to taste like anything else. It is its own unique delicacy. And then everyone starts to worry about how Phelan's going to take this whole eating monsters thing, but I don't know why they're worried about it. She's Leos' sister, so of course she's on board immediately. And is also on board immediately to learn about every single monster they ever met on this journey, and it's adorable. We also then talk about Leos' sword a bit and explain what it is, and about how we might just leave it at the bottom of the ocean to suffocate when we no longer need it. Okay, I guess that's a way to deal with that. The group then finds a little house that's still up, has 7 bathrooms in it, good for it. They decide to stay there for the night. We get a scene where Phelan talks to a little girl who is a resident of this house and is also a spirit. Because behind that door, there is no child, there is no room, it is simply a wall. That scene's rad.
That's not eerie at all.
No. I mean, but that's her character. That's what we know. They make a point that they should really clean up that black magic circle at some point, as to not cause additional problems. But that's tomorrow's problem. And thus everybody gets ready to go to bed. We have a scene where Marcel talks about sharing a sleeping bag with Phelan. And Phelan's like, I've grown. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that like we did when we were in school. And Marcel goes, I don't fucking care. I miss you. Get over here. And she goes, well, I'm going to go say goodnight to my brother. And we have an absolutely wonderful scene with them where Leos maybe shows the most emotion he's ever fucking showed in this show. And he's like, don't you dare ever do what you did again. And Phelan goes, I don't know what I did. And he goes, never do it again. She's like, okay. We are in agreement, I guess, now. Everybody goes to bed, and a certain character from the painting world is here and has stumbled upon dark magic. There's also a gag earlier where While they are in the bath, Chilchuck talks about how maybe Marcel is a dark elf, and that doesn't go over well. Also, absolutely not a dark elf. You'll know a dark elf when you see a dark elf. But yeah, very, very good episode. I really adored this episode. I thought it was a great close to the season for it. And very excited to watch the second core of it that is out, that is starting to air. Very pumped. Show good.
I thought it was fine. I don't like how the tension kind of just like went all away. And I think they definitely mentioned that they needed to clean up the circle like immediately afterwards, but just didn't. Probably because Senshi blew himself up. But
I think it's a mixture of that and like you also like do need the break after almost dying to a dragon.
yeah, but I feel like that circle also is kind of illegal and really not good from what they made it sound like.
I just don't think they're expecting anybody to swing through the desolate, destroyed orc-inhabited town anytime soon. It's one of those you make the call to do it right away, or you make the call to do it in 8 hours after a long rest, and if during the long rest your DM screws you over, your DM screws you over. Right? It was a coin flip. I'm not too worried about it because I think it also kind of needs to be there to set up the next thing. Like you want another plot thread in the show because you've just resolved the dragon and Phelan. And so like while yes, Leos needs money, that's a very minor goal to have a party move out to for like the second half of your show. And I think dealing with potential conflict of someone finding out you've casted dark magic is a much more interesting hook. So I don't particularly have a large gripe with it.
Also, this is a group of chuckle fucks, as one could call them. They're not exactly the smartest people ever. Like, they understand they should clean it up. And, like, you could imagine Chilchuck's probably sitting there going, hey, we should clean that up. And Leos is just sitting there going, let me exist with my sister for 5 minutes.
Well, Phelan also
and then
patches
she
up his
caused an
leg.
explosion.
Yeah.
Then they kind of start thinking about that.
And then food takes
I
priority.
think this episode's fucking amazing.
Hunger takes priority.
The music, the entire resurrection scene, the music that plays during it, just that whole setup, great. Marcel finally had like another like really, I guess not finally, she has like a ton of them, like a really big character moment with the, I can do this. I specialize in ancient magic. At least in the dub, they call it ancient magic specific.
Yeah, in the sub, they say like dark art, black magic. They also refer to it as an ancient magic,
Yeah.
but they also very much.
Right, they also very much go, yes, this is not a good thing. This
Yeah.
is not a thing most people want us to do.
But I mean, she also raises the point, which is, you can do lots of bad things with with generally defined good magic. Just because society views it a particular way doesn't necessarily mean that's the case.
Yeah.
It makes her character really interesting. Mason, thoughts?
I mean, this episode was fantastic for me. Like, it did all of the things I was hoping it would do, where it got, like, we had good, solid emotional moment. We had clear, defined, like, this is the end of this arc, moving on to the next. Trigger did trigger things. It just looked really pretty. I just really liked this episode. I thought it was wonderful.
So let's move over to full-on thoughts on show. I think Dungeon Meshi probably has a fairly slow wind-up for its start. I think across the board our general opinion of that was pretty clear. That it was a really neat concept, with interesting characters that definitely needed its first couple of episodes to build to see where we were going. I like that it's a pretty self-contained story for the first 12 episodes. Where you do kind of have a nice little wrap up on it. I don't know. I don't particularly think like anything else needed to get drawn out from this. I'm perfectly fine with the way the resurrection goes over. I really enjoy the way this show has talked about its characters and given us a lot of background about who they are and what they've done, but not always through flashback and full on like fleshing out the stories. A lot of the time, more through dialogue with each other or very particular character moments in the episodes that were catered to the situations they were in. I found that very refreshing compared to some other stuff that's come out and doesn't quite do that so well. Obviously, the action scenes we got, throughout the show, you have the dragon, you have the Undyne, but then you also get moments with stuff like with the Kelpie. You get stuff with the animated armors, with Senshi flailing the bottle of holy water on a lantern around against spirits. All that stuff looks incredible and really cool. And I personally really enjoy the characters that come out of this show.
Yeah, I think this show's thing, like a concept, a hilarious concept of going into a dungeon without food and having to eat the monster. And I think in episode like 1, 2, and 3, they do a really good job setting up the concept of like how monsters are going to be eaten, how they kind of like mirror generally how like actual real world animals, like, I mean the mimic doesn't, like they have like the scorpion or whatever, which is just a crab. Or is that you cook like lobster, closer, but same similar thing. They had like the bugs. You prepare them the way you would prepare bugs, which not a thing most of us probably ever have done, but it's a thing people do. And I think the reason the show started lower for like me was that it took it a bit to really get to the character moments that like define what I like from this show. Then it was like, I think it was episode like 5 or 6, we got like the really big character. It was like, oh, these, I think it was like episode 5 where we finally got Marcel like breaking down about her imposter syndrome thing, and I was like, oh god, the show's good, huh? Whichever, I don't know what episode that was.
That sounds about right. I think they're.
I remember. Oh, maybe that was episode 4, because that would have that's what. I don't know. Whenever that was, I remember that being like the really big one. I was like, okay, this slaps.
Yeah. I agree. Like, it definitely had the slower start. Like, I wasn't fully in on this show initially. But as it goes on, it just seems like it got better and better and better. There wasn't like a clear like drop as you went in episodes. It just was a solid curve.
John, you got anything you want to throw in about it before we move on?
Definitely one of the best shows to watch this season. You know, it's pretty straightforward. Really good show. I guess it did have that slow ramp, but I mean, it's got good action because it's Trigger, and it's a good story. So, yeah, I'll probably watch the second core when I get time.
Yeah, definitely locked in for second core.
Yeah.
Let me go grab our next up. So with that in mind, Michael, you get to lead us into not a conversation about all of those shows. Not all of those shows, that's for sure.
No, I get to start the conversation on Metallic Rouge, right? Yeah. See, I don't know what you flipped there, but I assume you.
No, I did the thing where I copied the entire show list.
Sick.
As opposed to.
So we're talking about Way of Pawn now. Okay, so
Yeah,
Way of
baby,
Pawn's
we sure are. I'm glad you
they
finished
played
it.
more. Played more.
For some reason, they
I
just
can maybe
captured
guess.
they captured my mahjong footage for 2 minutes
That's
of the
crazy.
show and then didn't play it for the rest of it. Michael, let's talk about Hokkaido Gals.
Kyle Gals made a choice this week, which is probably because of being a character being a main character and being a weekly running story, or not even weekly. I don't know. They makes a choice. We'll get to that. I don't like the. I don't think I hate the choice as much as you guys do, which is fair.
I'll
But
talk.
It's
about
not
it.
a great time. Okay, but we'll get to that. So this episode starts off with us back, continuing from where we are there at the. They just had the little like, he like gave her the friendship band. I think it's like where we ended off last episode. To them sitting out there in the, where like the purple pinkish petals are, and they go, "Oh shit, it's late. We gotta get on the bus." The final bus leaves in like 20 minutes, and then a worker comes up and goes, yeah, so it's a holiday and bus schedule different. Sorry. there's not another bus or not another train, whatever transportation was. And they go, oh shit. Well, what do we do? Then they both call their parents. We never see what happens on Minami's side of this conversation. She probably doesn't even fucking talk to her mom. That's probably actually what happened. She like pretends to, or she goes, "Hey,
the implication,
I'm here," and she goes, "I don't know."
She just sends a message staying over at a friend's house, and the implication is everybody knows what that means.
Yeah. The Tsubasa calls his dad and goes, "Hey, Dad, I'm stuck. We're out here. And I was like, I'm with a friend. We're out at this place." And the dad goes, "Okay." So they're like a little less than an hour. I could go pick them up, or I know a guy out there who has a hotel. So he goes, "Just stay at my friend's hotel." And then Tsubasa takes it as, "Oh, he doesn't realize I'm with a girl." I took it as his dad absolutely knows who he's with. As based father.
I think you could take it as that, or you can also just take it as the fact that Tsubasa, from the structure we have story-wise, doesn't have a lot of friends, and his dad setting foot in Hokkaido has already learned he clearly does. So like, I think either way it's a fine read of it, and it's just he's a good dad for being like, you know what, spend time with your friend. I know a place. Just who am I to pull you away from a life you did not previously live until you got to Hokkaido?
Sure. And also, it's a really good, really nice hotel.
Yeah.
Like they eat some real good food. They have a good time, doing hotel things. The two of them. Then they get to the awkward that is, oh god, it's nighttime. We have to like sleep in the same room. And also, Minami goes to shower first, which I'm not sure exactly why she goes, "Yeah, I gotta go shower first." I think it's just a setup so we could have Tsubasa thinking.
Yeah.
And also because fucking shonen manga, they had to show her tits in the shower. That's gonna
fucking
happen.
damn, by the way. Jesus Christ. I think they amped those a little for this last episode.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a particularly like sexual, like the way they do it, but it's still very much she's naked in a shower. There was very clearly intention as to why she's in the shower and he's the one sitting on the bed.
It's not even. Let me be clear. It's not even necessarily the shower scene that I think is bad. It's the we fall back to the inner thoughts scene that was so bad in the earlier episodes that the show had kind of completely done away with. And then we go back to the shower for no particular reason. There's no point of that shot to show besides to show Minami thinking. And, like, you can do that without doing the full-scale pan over her entire naked body.
Yeah.
Which, like, that's just... Like, that's what I'm talking about, like, comparison to Dungeon Meshi. Is that, like, there is generally a well-thought-out point that, like... I'm not saying don't classify the Dungeon Meshi thing as fan service. There are definitely fans who very much appreciated that scene between those two. But, like... it at least serves a better means to an end than what we get here.
Like they at least did something with the fact that And again, I don't think it's a shonen manga. Sometimes you gotta live through it, but fair. It's not a good thing.
So Mike, let me say the reason why I'm so down on the thing that happens later in the episode is because of what's about to happen now. I want to make this very clear. This is insane to do.
Yeah.
Freaky is maybe a psychopath, one might say, for what she's about to do.
Oh yeah, but so while he's sitting on the bed, he finally it feels like he like connects the dots. He's like, wait, I think I actually just flat out like her. But he goes, but because he's a fucking dumbass and also is never really talked to people, he doesn't want to come to conclusions about her side of it, and doesn't want to sour a friendship. So he gets kind of sits there and goes, fuck, what do I do here? Then he falls asleep. He just falls asleep. He's thinking too hard. The brain stopped. Then Minami, Fuyuki comes out of the shower, goes, hey, you can go to the shower while he's asleep. Then goes, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to leave him a note.
3 pages of 3 notes, by the way. We only ever see one of them. What the fuck does she write on the other 2?
I don't know. It's crazy because she writes like 2 sentences. It takes 3 notes to do it. She leaves him a note and then leaves to go home anyway, in the middle of the night. Like has her mom pick her up. She's a psychopath.
And you know
and
what?
Also, we learned later she
That's
also
not even
puts
the worst part.
She puts her hair
Yeah.
clip that he got her, or that she bought at this time, in his bag. Zero mention to that.
And for what it's worth, you might be thinking, well, we know she's gonna go abroad, so perhaps she has to make her flight. No, because there's a span of a week or two, or some amount that we don't get that's about to happen, where Tsubasa just locks himself in his house to
Oh
think.
wait, there's more.
Oh yeah, and we'll get there, Michael.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Oh yeah, no, and after he gets the note, again, which I don't know what was even on the note. I don't even remember.
Hi,
My brain
I'm
was-
leaving for the
it
night.
Was, it was
I'm leaving for
it
the
was
night.
like I'm leaving.
I had a good time. Yada yada yada. I didn't want to wake you up, something like that. And that was only the first page of the note. We didn't ever get
Yeah.
to see what was on the other two, because who knows if she wrote anything or just left 2 blank pages underneath it. I could believe
But yeah.
that.
But then we have a week long like time skip essentially, which is just Tsubasa ruminating in his room, as one could say, where he just, instead of thinking, he's just kind of existing.
At least base Kazuya would have jerked off during that time.
Let's calm down on that one.
And the reason
I
we
don't know if I'm
know
in
this, the reason we
agreement.
know this was like a week long time skip, is because Akino goes, he hasn't logged on to Animal Crossing. I wonder what he's
All
up
the
to.
villagers are missing him.
I didn't,
Have you logged on to your Animal Crossing? Have you? It's been 5 years.
It has
I know you
been.
haven't.
and
I
then
don't own
wild,
the game.
2 characters from a completely different show show up in this next scene. For the first time in this show, by the way, we're meeting these 2 characters.
Oh yeah, we get two kids who are a year younger. Who
Yeah.
one of them knows Akino from something. The other's just another first year, because they're all second years now. Main group.
It's okay.
Yeah.
They'll join the harem next.
And
season.
this is
Probably.
to introduce 2 new. This is to introduce at least 1 new girl to the group, probably. But yeah, we don't get much out of them outside of
One's a
Akino going,
One's a
yeah, I
sporty
don't want to
girl,
hang out with you because I don't like hanging out with people.
One's the tan sporty girl archetype, and the other one is maybe like someone who's super into models and like figure like internet figures or something, because she mentions that like she idolizes Fuyuki in a way that makes it sound like she gets like hyper fixated on people, but I could be reading into that character. We
I
don't
don't
get
know.
enough of anything with them.
Again, we don't get much of this. This is very clearly they're going to be more important later on in the manga, probably.
Or
Maybe.
not.
I don't know.
Who knows?
But yeah, this whole thing is to set up Akino, not wanting to go with them to karaoke, because she doesn't like hanging out with people, because that's just how she is. And then through a whole bunch of texts going back and forth, and realizing that, Fuyuki's flight is about to she's about to leave. He happens to Tsubasa gets up and fumbles his bag a little bit, causing the hairpin to fall out. And he goes, oh shit, I need to give this to her. And this is the
What a-
push he needs
what
to
a
go
perfectly
finally
good
talk to her before she
Which,
leaves.
you know what? It's not that he uses this as an excuse. That is a legitimate thing to do, is to find something to give yourself reason to go see somebody that you were hesitating for. It's the
Yeah.
fact that we're supposed to believe that this was a well thought out, convoluted sociopathic plan.
No, I think the idea is that it's not a well thought out plan.
No, it
Fuyuki's
isn't. You're right.
fucking
You're right.
dumbass.
She's dumb.
It's a Fuyuki plan. It's not exactly a good plan, but it certainly was a plan she had. Then we cut to her at the airport going, damn, maybe a single hair clip wasn't enough. 'Cause, yeah,
Dumbest line of this show.
and they're getting ready to board or whatever, or not. It's oh wow, their plane's gonna go all leaving whenever soon-ish. And we have this really nice scene where Tsubasa goes, hey dad, I need to go to the airport. And his dad goes, why the fuck do you need to go to the airport? He goes,
I'm in a
I need to go
fucking
see it.
meeting.
I need to go to the airport right now. I don't ask for much, but I need to go right now. And his dad goes, oh, hold up. Yes, you guys gotta do that meeting without me.
And then Tsubasa, hold on, he
meeting.
calls him up, he goes, hey, how you been? And Tsubasa goes, dad, and his dad looks at him and goes, shut the fuck up, I'm in the middle of something, let me do, calm down, kid, I know what
for
you
2
want.
months, dude. Like
His
what?
dad is so big.
I've been here for
His
a
dad's
week and a
good.
half, you haven't come downstairs, you asked me for everything, just let
You
me
went on
talk
a
to
vacation
somebody.
without me.
His dad's actually really
I set you
based.
up and she fucking dumped your ass.
His
But yeah,
dad's
so
super cool.
Yeah, and then he gets to he gets to the airport, and as will happen in anime and anything dramatic, because he gets there like right as she's about to board. Um, yeah, they have a little chat, or they start having a little chat, and he's like, "Yeah, here's your hair clip," and she's like, "Oh wow, thanks." And they're like, he's like, "I'm gonna miss you" or whatever, and then she goes, "Yeah, for 2 weeks."
No. He goes, "We'll go back to the park when you come back, no matter
Yeah, when you
how
go back,
long
and
I
then she
have
goes,
to
"In
wait."
2 weeks. And then she hits you with the yoinky splanky. It'll be 2 weeks. It's just a short course. I'm not going. She's like, yeah, it was just a short thing, which she neglected to mention to anyone for some reason.
Seemingly.
I mean, except her mom, but like, yeah, it was certainly a choice to do that. Maybe it was because for like a comedic thing. It was supposed to be like,
Yes, almost
but
assuredly.
Also, God, it's certainly a real bad way to end off that. Like the good drama that's coming out of that.
Yeah, the problem is it takes out all of the tension of anything that's
Yeah.
happened, and also removes any potentially interesting things that could have followed with the supporting cast.
Yeah, that
when
would
you
have been
remove
super
one of
cool
the
to
main
have her like not
characters.
there for a season.
Yeah.
Then it's like a really big moment when she comes
Even
back.
for, like-
Because they play her coming back as the greatest moment of all time in the post credits scene, which is crazy.
It
Just,
sure
wow,
is a
it's been
scene.
2 weeks.
Which it
was
also
choice to
also
end that
wild that it's
way.
been 2 weeks, because the way Akino talks to him, it sounds like it's only been a fucking day since she's left. Where she's like, "Are you good to game again?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll game."
Yeah, no, it's out. It seemed like the next day, and then they go, "Just kidding, it's been 2 weeks." Because they got to do there's like an event happening in the game.
And arguably,
They gotta go get their car.
what
so they
might
can
make
fly.
this even more frustrating is that our third girl, who had maybe some of the best chemistry with him, is just non-existent for the end stretch of this show.
Yeah, she shows up. She shows up like at their house like once. Episode
Yeah,
11.
to drop off food. Well, no, she shows up this episode to drop off food, and he's still fucking comatose in his room. But we get no end interaction with her at the end of the episode.
Yeah. Like, I understand why it was probably originally that he was at the manga was originally gonna actually flat remove her for a bit, and then fans were like, or like their editor was like, that's not a good idea.
Not enough drama.
Because she's
Give
certainly
us
the
more
most popular
drama.
character of this manga. Because boy, the tiny amount I've read of the manga, Boss is not a very lovable character.
No, I agree. From what I've watched of the show, I like aspects of his. I mean, that's the end of the episode. We can get in the full on show.
that's
conversation.
where.
Like I like a lot of what this show does, and I like a lot of the potential that it felt like it was when it felt like it was getting away from like the typical harem fan servicey stuff. I actually really liked what it was potentially gonna bring. And that was definitely where I was last week, where I was like, yeah, you had a really incredible build up heading into your finale that I was willing to bet on you. And then as it be sometimes, you don't stick the finale. And impressively so, not only do you not stick it, you make it bad, which is impressive to me. I mean, for a long time with this show, I was not particularly high on it. There were obviously episodes that I thought were really good. The piano episode. I wasn't as big on the Valentine's episode that followed, but I know most of the podcast really liked it. And then like the last 2-3 episodes were pretty good outside of this like very, very last one. So I think there was a matter of this show definitely, to me, would have been a really nice surprise and breath of fresh air if it managed to stick its ending, and it just didn't. And that is unfortunately how that goes sometimes.
Yeah. If it just ended, if that last episode was episode 12, this would have been a better ending to this.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been weird to just end in the middle of fucking nowhere, but like, even then, last episode had like a really solid end of the two of them just there. Like that's where a lot of romances like end their 12 is like you have the nice scene of them in a park or at a festival or at a different kind of festival.
I legitimately just don't think we get enough of him as a character and like his actual conflicts and turmoils. Like, I think that legitimately would make him interesting. Mind you, I also don't necessarily think that I want what Sign of Affection does in its last episode, where it decides we're going to take the male lead and give us backstory in the last... Again, it's a very weird last episode for Sign of Affection in terms of what it chooses to do. Still great. It's still a good episode. But it's like, the way you order where you learn about characters and stuff is important. And like, I think it is worse to never really give you enough of a character, where at least getting it at some point is better. Like, if the end of this episode would have been learning more about Tsubasa's past and understanding why this set of events is very impactful for him, and why he is like cooped up in his room, it would have been much more enjoyable than this. I especially, something that bothers me is that we get to see in the diner with Akino, where like Fuyuki shows up and it's like, yeah, I'm leaving, and there's a point where it's very clear, despite us not having the conversation, where Akino finds out that she tells Tsubasa last minute, and she's like, I don't know if that... She's like, you didn't tell him beforehand, and you only told him just now? And I really, 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 really wanted Akino to, like, be like, no, that's, like, wrong
Fucking
to do to
stupid.
him. Well, like, even that, but, like, take any kind of stand, but I get that that's not her character, because I felt the same way when she wanted to volunteer to be part of the class officers and didn't do it there. Like, this show largely, for me, is just not enough of the characters hit enough of the highs or get enough of the things that I think would really make this show shine, and it is unfortunately not in its favor. That's where I am with this show. Last week was wild, though. Last week was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Again, I think it should have really good moments. Yeah, this other episode just kind of...
I'll put the little thing I'll say about this is never have I felt so vindicated for how frustrated I've been over something until after I watched this episode.
Oh no,
that
that's
was
fair.
Really fucking stupid. And I watched a lot of romance anime that was really bad. I've seen a lot of failed confessionals from like Nozaki-kun,
There also
Fireworks,
is no
all
confession.
this other stuff, but there's no actual confession, like you said.
On top of
she
it,
cuts him
either.
off with this bullshit, and then comes back and says, "Oh, just kidding, it was 2 weeks, and I'll be back in the end of the episode."
Because he just says how much she means to him. Nothing ever goes anywhere, even at the scene at the gate. So like, you don't even get like a flat out real confession, which again is not a surprise to me, given the genre and type of show it is. Right?
And that's
like,
fine. I'd rather have no confession with this build up than a fake like premise against it, if that makes sense, right?
yeah,
It feels
I
like
think
a lot of build up is just for.
I think
nothing,
arguably
basically,
if
at
you
that
got
point, and
the
it kind
if
of
you
ruins
got the
whole
confession
point
and then
of it.
she goes, I'm actually only going to be gone for 2 weeks, it would feel even worse.
But no, I don't have much more to say. You guys said about it already.
Mason.
Yeah, I like. It unfortunately didn't stick the landing. I really liked the last couple of episodes of the show that it had been the direction it had been going, and then just didn't quite get there. So it's unfortunate, but yeah.
Okay, well then, let us move on to the third show. And let me do it right this time, so that I don't copy-paste the entirety of the show list onto what we're talking about. There we go, Mason. Let's talk about Mr. Villain's Day Off.
Yeah. So this last episode starts off where Mr. Villain is searching for cat-related things online to try and figure out how to take care of a cat. Meanwhile, C018, the cat, I'm just going to refer to it as the cat,
That's fair.
is like Rooney is pulling it out and like saying, okay, you're going to go with the general. And the cat goes, well, like, do I have to? He's like, well, yeah, he's going to take care of you. Just try it out. Because the cat had a existential crisis of, well, I was made for one purpose, and I can't do that, so I'm useless. And asks Rooney to shut him down or dismantle him. Rooney goes, how about we try this out, bud, and not try to functionally turn yourself off, and just see what happens. And if you do it for like a couple of months and don't like it, then okay, I'll do it. So General comes in, asks him what kind of bed he wants, and if he doesn't make a choice, he's getting the panda bed. Says the panda bed's fun. We get some shots of just hanging out at home. Cat's reluctant to do it, but finds that he enjoys it. It's very cute. And then we get the basically the conclusion of our tree spirit children. After that, Bench Boy is just hoping that the cherry tree girl blooms. She's not doing it, but is chatting with Mr. Villain and saying that he's gonna tell her how he really feels when she does bloom. Ends up just saying that he's gonna tell her that he loves her, and just keeps saying it until eventually she shows up. And then after this, we get a cutaway, and when Mr. Villain comes back after this, they're both just sitting on the bench and can't really talk to one another because they're both awkward. So they play a game of telephone between him before eventually the bench boy says that he loves the cherry tree girl. It's very cute, very wholesome. After that, we have a bit with the Rangers where Red walks in on. Oh no, excuse me.
Yeah, gift
it's
first.
with the Red Ranger. Yeah. So Mr. Villain's walking home from work and sees the Red Ranger, tries to get away from him, keeps trying to get away from him, and every time he takes a different route home, the Red Ranger just keeps getting lost in the exact right direction until eventually he goes, okay, hey Red Ranger, what's up? Do you want to fight? I really don't want to. And he goes, oh no, I just wanted to hand off this gift to you because you've been super nice to me this whole time. Like, appreciate the directions, and also you're not a bad dude. Really don't like fighting you, but like, come on, man, you gotta quit that. And hands him a box of panda cookies, saying, and Mr. Villain says he's got good taste. After that, Red finally gets home, and when he walks in, Pink is like, hey, be quiet. They all fell asleep like this, and the blue and green Rangers are just laying there in the same exact position on the floor, passed out. Pink goes, hey, Red, lay next to him. I'm going to send it to Black. He's going to love it. It's great. Takes a picture of it, sends it to Black. Black wakes up to the text and like, smiles at it before getting yelled at by his alarm clock to wake up because it's
this
Ranger
alarm
time.
clock.
Wake up. Get up.
Don't you dare go back to sleep.
Don't go back to sleep. I'm already up, dude. Come on. And then we finally get a scene where it's the actual, like, it's the Rangers fighting the General, and it's like an extended, like, actual scene of it. After, like, we get the fight and everything, it just cuts away to him going, like, walking past all the characters in the show at some point, interacting with each other, and he just goes, yeah, I'm not going to fight on my day off.
Yeah. Same
way it started. I really enjoyed this episode. Like, it was just more a villain. That's what I was here for.
No, this episode was great. This thing with the kid, I mentioned it last week too with it. This thing with the kid trees, fucking amazing. It's crazy that the show made me care this much about fucking trees.
Yeah.
Like,
I will say, it feels like this maybe was something that gets introduced a lot earlier in the source material, and the show holds off on it because the way we cycle through seasons at the like a year has fucking passed in the span of one of our scenes to our next, and that just feels like they didn't have a good place anime-wise to maybe put the first encounter and then the second, and so they just kind of bundled a bunch of it towards the very end, which I think works out fine. It just makes the time pacing a little weird, because it makes
the whole time has been kind of.
It just makes it feel like nothing happens for a whole fucking year worth talking about besides him owning this cat and these tree spirit children. But like, I really enjoy this episode. I don't have too much I want to say about the episode as much as I do the show itself. So, this is because it's good. About the episode though, I do really like that. Part of the reason why Black to his alarm clock is like, no, I'm awake, trust me, is that while he is getting out of bed, he changes his screensaver to be the photo he got. So he wakes up, sees it, starts to roll out of bed, and while rolling out of bed, sets it as his background, and then just gets up and go. And that was why he was like getting ready to move. Where he was like, no, I'm awake, I've done something productive in 5 seconds of my life. And I think that's great. I also
really
like.
appreciate. Oh god.
I was gonna say I also like that Pink when she sends the message. You can see her 2 messages beforehand where she goes, I made Red lay down with them to get the photo. Where she like she spills the beans, doesn't even try to hide it that it was a slightly staged photo, and I just think that that's a cool little character thing.
I love that we fully get just a like.
Yeah.
It really leans into the fact that Black is just Batman, essentially, where he's like falling asleep during the day, doing Ranger shit at night, and that's just what we've gotten of him like this whole time. But I just enjoy it.
Yo, can we quick talk about these Ranger powers? Sword, bow,
So,
gauntlets, spear, orb? What the fuck are you? They have the pin. It's the pin they have that does it, that generates it,
Yeah,
because
it's
all
magic.
their weapons have like a gold tint to them, to show you like that's the thing they're going to use to summon. And yeah, they just what the fuck.
I also do really enjoy that Pink is the Brawler Ranger.
I think that's not
Wonderful.
uncommon for the female rangers to get like the more martial.
Mhm.
If I'm being honest, it seems like it's pretty typical. Which I much prefer to give the woman a bow.
Yeah.
That is the thing I'm a little tired of. The more it shows up. So.
Fair.
Well, yeah. Do we have other thoughts about the episode? Or do we want to move into talking about the show at large?
I think show and large is probably good at this point. I think my thoughts on the show have been clear. I love this show. It's just one of those shows for me that like it hits a specific like it just tugs on the right string that it's just my kind of show. So I love it.
I guess I can go. I don't. So yeah, this show originally I wasn't super high on. That's because a lot of its first episodes focused just on him and the pandas, and that for me could only go so far. Because like yeah, it was funny. Him and his pandas were fun, but I think the show really hits its stride when it starts introducing side characters and doing stuff with them, because. I think this show writes some of the greatest side characters ever. It writes it. We had Pink for like an episode, and she's one of my favorite characters in like anything. She's wonderful. We had Mugi and Sora for like 3 episodes. 3 minutes into meeting them, I was like, yeah, they're fucking peak. When they meet him in the mall, that entire episode of the mall was great. Them and that whole setup. Red's kind of whatever. But that's because he's just generic protag character. I loved the entire cast of Rangers because as a full group they were great. As I mentioned right at the beginning of this, the fucking tree kids. They did something with those. It was crazy. It was so good. Fucking Santa Claus. The kid who he's you guys mentioned the scene constantly. The sandcastle scene.
Yep.
You have the kid with the panda tail, or the panda tail scene. Like. This show manages to write side characters and make them so lovable so quickly. The fucking store clerk. When I saw her like the final roll through the characters, I was cheering. I was like, yeah, look at her go.
I did that for the Panda Tail kid. I was like, let's fucking go. He showed up.
Again, they did like a roll through of all the characters.
It's
at, like,
literally
the end of the
all
episode.
of
It's
them.
so good.
Yeah.
There's
nice
the 2 kids who the one moves away. They're both there.
Yep.
They're just chilling, hanging out.
Hands-
The sandcastle. Yeah, all the food old ladies are there with the Rangers.
Mhm.
The sandcastle kid is there.
Wild.
It's just a very comfy set of characters. It's just nice. I don't know. It's a good time.
I don't know why it took me so long to really like this show. Because the thing that definitely makes me confident that I do think this show belongs to be in the top 3 of this season is that when I think about it, having finished Sign of Affection, a lot of the things I really like about Sign of Affection, I really like about this show in terms of its direction, its art style choices, interactions with side characters and choices it makes, the way like it kind of flows between, like they do different kinds of storytelling where this actually flows between skits or segments, whereas Sign of Affection usually picks a general straight flow, but they both do those particular things really well, and like there are absolutely, like I think once again we hit episode 5, there were definitely episodes where it was like the direction and the way they portray things and the concepts they're trying to get across with these smaller little stories are so extremely well executed that I really love it. I'm really glad to have it here. I'm not sure where I would I do not know what my breakdown would have been if it was Dungeon Meshi, this, and Sign of Affection.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, I know what my, well, correct, because I know what my top show is and it doesn't change. Because I really, really enjoyed the ending of Dungeon Meshi. But like it to me personally, and I'm saying it more to be like, I want to give Mr. Villains the props I actually think the show really does deserve, which is I do think it is a show that has a valid contention for top 3. I just think it doesn't get accurately represented just because of kind of how other things were within the season. The season was a very interesting one, and we're gonna get into that.
Sean has a lot of numbers about a lot of things.
I just don't know if
He
John
spent
wants
like
to say
5
anything
hours
first.
last night finding numbers.
Oh, I was doing other things too. I don't know if John wants to say anything in the meantime too, while I set stuff up.
No, I mean, I never really fully bought into the show like you guys did, but I thought it was fine. Did what it did well, and you know, I didn't really love this last episode. I just kind of felt like more of the same, and it still feels kind of all over the place. But I mean, that's kind of the design of genre, so yeah, it was fine.
So as my co-hosts fill out the final votes for this season, let me talk about that quick before I go into stats. So when we get into the finale, we have a sheet here in front of us where we have Dungeon Meshi, Hokkaido Gals, and Mr. Villain's Day Off, and for each show we could pick 1, 2, or 3. The show that we think is best, you want to put as 1, and the show that we put as 1 will receive 3 points. The show you think is second best, you should put as 2, it will receive 2 points, and the show you think is the worst of these 3, you put as 3, and it will receive 1 point. That is how this goes. So while that gets put together, let me talk about some stats. And real quick, let me go. Nope, that's not what I want. Let me change this to be stats. So let's do our fun little game. How many shows do you think had a first place finish this season? We can either go guess the number, or just list off shows, and I'll tell you when we've hit all the shows that hit first.
Dungeon Meshi, Sign of Affection, Mr. Villains. Did someone put Hokkaido one?
Yep,
ever?
I did.
Yep.
I think that's it.
Nope.
Gallic Rouge was number
No,
1 for
not
Mason at one
Rouge.
point.
Not 4.
Or me, one of ours number 1.
Solo leveling?
Mm-hmm.
Solo
One more
was the
show.
number 1 like 3 times.
One more show. Tamer.
Tamer?
Yep, 7 shows.
Yeah,
Number 1
Tamer
finishes.
was Sean's number 1 week 1.
We have. I will spare us the time. Exact same shows have second place finishes. 7 of those as well. There is an additional show with a third place finish. Mason, do you know what it is?
It's the Saki and Peeps.
It is. So now it's time to play the game. Do you remember which of our other 4 shows did not get into top 3 at all this season? Do you know what they are?
Fushigiri,
Yeah.
Way of Pawn,
Yeah.
Witch and the Beast.
Witch and the Beast.
Do you remember the last show?
Fluffy.
Yep.
Yeah, Fluffy Paradise.
So those were 4 shows that never broke top
That was the first
3.
thing I thought of, and then I forgot to say it.
How do we want? Let's start third place finishes. There is a tie for most third place finishes between 2 shows. Want to figure out what it is?
Mr. Villains in
Wait.
Hokkaido.
No.
No, Hokkaido had like a 1/3 place or something. It didn't have.
Dungeon Meshi
Dungeon Meshi is one of them.
and Sign.
Nope.
No, because I don't think you ever put Sign that high.
I put Sign
No,
that high quite a
sign
bit.
sign consistently was at like 1s and 2s.
Well,
I don't, sign
Mason
didn't
was
really
always-
pop into 3.
Mason was always Mr. Villain like top 3, and then usually Dungeon Meshi was up there for everybody.
So Dungeon Meshi is one of the shows that had 7 third-place finishes.
Sounds about right.
The other show also has 7.
Tamer.
No.
It's solo.
I don't.
It's solo leveling.
I don't think-
Solo leveling also had 7 7 third-place finishes. We then then I will say, in terms of second-place finishes, one of our shows has 10 and the other has 14. Want to figure out what takes the most second-place finishes?
Oh, probably Dungeon Meshi.
Probably sign.
It is Sign of Affection.
Sign.
Okay.
And then once
I
again,
was like 7 of those.
Once
second place
again-
finishes.
once again, we have first place, 13 first-place finishes, and then 10 first-place finishes are the 2 high numbers. Want to figure out what those are?
I wonder if it's Sign and Dungeon Meshi.
It is, but which one's which?
I'm gonna go Signs first, probably.
It is. Here's a fun statistic. John, how many times did you put Sign of Affection in first place?
How many weeks do we have?
9?
8,
Nope. All 9.
6.
All 9. You put it in first place every week.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, no, I don't know why you're surprised by that. So those breakdowns, well, let me do these breakdowns because they're fun. Me and Mason had the same number of shows that we put in first place, which is 4. Obviously, John, you only put 1 show in first place. Michael had 5 shows that had first place finishes for him. Second place finishes. John, you had 2 shows that you put in second place. It's obviously not Sign of Affection.
Solo leveling and Dungeon Meshi.
Uh-huh. And then I had 3, and then Mason and Michael both had 4 shows that were second place finishes. John, you had 5 shows that you put in third place. I had 4. Mason, you had 6, and Michael, you had 7 shows you put in
Yep.
third place. With that in mind, the last statistic I got here is percentage for top place finishes. So I've done this before, so for those who don't know, 9 weeks, 4 of us, it means that there are 36 chances for a show to be in top 3 throughout the season, and any spot in top 3. Because obviously a show...
Dungeon Meshi's probably the highest percentage.
Hmm?
Dungeon Meshi's probably the
No.
highest percentage.
It is not. So the percentage. So here's the percentages for our top 3 finishing shows. So Dungeon Meshi, 75% of the time. Hokkaido Gals, 22. Mr. Villains, 33. Sign of Affection had 83. It only missed top 3 6 times.
Wow, crazy.
However, I
Minus me.
wanted to bring this up, because I think it's important to note. Hokkaido Gals is not the show that has made a top 3 finish with the least amount of top 3 finishes. There is, I think it's one. It's one show, which is correct. Sasaki to Miyano, season winner, had less third place finishes. Fun fact about that season, John.
Top 3 or third place finishes specifically?
Top 3. Top 3
Top 3.
finishes.
That's a big differential because
Yeah.
I think it had like a flat 20% or like an
Yeah,
under 20% top 3.
it was
It was
just like
in-
middle of the pack until it was really good.
Of-
The romance that ramped up.
No, it just wasn't bad.
Of the
Ever.
36 chances it had for top 3, Sasaki to Miyano was there 7 times, whereas Hokkaido was there 8. This is really funny because
Tsubikui?
Sasaki to Miyano season was winter 2022, and this is winter 2024, so 2 years later. In that top 3, so let me give you, Dungeon Meshi's number is 27 top place finishes out of 36. Sign of Affections is 30 out of 36. In that winter season, Dress Up Darling had 25 out of 36 finishes, and
Samakui Bisco.
Yeah.
Bisco.
So I was looking at the first one. I'm like, is that what that is? Yeah, but Bisco had 30 out of 36 as well. So we notoriously have seasons where the show that has the most top 3 finishes does not wind up making it. And for podcast record, we've also had shows that have absolutely dominated. It isn't necessarily fair to say this because the statistics a little skewed. But we have had 2 shows that appeared in every single top 3, everybody's top 3 for the entire season because we missed a vote off week. So instead of 36, there's only 28, and they appeared in all 28. I don't think that was going to change. John, Michael and Mason were here when I collected that, so they may not remember, but they definitely do know. Do you want to guess what 2 shows they were? They were from the same season, if it helps.
What are we talking about again?
2 shows in the podcast history that were always in the top 3.
Like a whole history?
Yep.
Or just us?
Going back, think us 4, because it goes back to summer 2021. I have the data for.
They were always in top 3. Oh, Spy Family.
Spy Family was out of top 3 twice. It did not hit its 36 out of 36.
Ooh, I don't think Ranking of Kings did it, because I don't think we liked it the earliest.
Ranking of Kings did not because you did not put it in your top 3 one week. We also missed a vote off week that week, so that's a 32 out of 36.
Did Bochi the Rock do it? There's no way. No. It definitely was like 4th once, right?
Bochi the Rock, 31 out of 36.
Yeah,
the 2 shows that had perfect top 3 attendances were Licorice Recoil and Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting.
That makes sense.
Its 3rd pairing from that season was Call of the Night, which had a 50% appearance rating. But yeah, these numbers are not particularly astounding or crazy, because of the fact that when I look at the physical breakdown, like, you have to consider the fact that most of Sign of Affection's top 3 finishes are your 1st place finishes for it, John, and then mine and Michael's 2nd place finishes for it. And like otherwise it like floats a little bit for Mason in those top 3 positions. Michael never put Sign of Affection in 1st place. And then it was never 3rd for you or me, obviously. It was never anything else but 1st for you, John. But it was never 3rd for me, which is why it's 3rd place numbers.
No, it wouldn't have always been 2nd for you.
It was close. It out of my 9 2nd place finishes, it was there 6 times. The other two of them went to solo leveling, and the other one was Hokkaido in that last week.
I still haven't picked it.
But yeah. So it's not, considering how much the top 3 varied for Michael and Mason, it's not particularly surprising the statistics look this way. Because that's just, there wasn't necessarily no clear consensus from them on what their top 3 was going to look like. Which I think was a very different feeling for you and me, because there was definitely a point very early, John, where you and me, it was Dungeon Meshi, Sign of Affection, solo leveling in no particular order. Like, you and I definitely probably don't agree on where those 3 fall in exact line with each other. And obviously, I haven't finished solo leveling, so I don't have an opinion about it. But
I do think that I have to look at the numbers, but based off what we're saying is still the other 2 shows did not fall in top 3 very frequently, regardless of comparing, like, if you removed my sample size completely.
Well, so I actually did do that.
Where did Sign of Fiction fall in terms of 3rd place? Because if you remove my numbers completely,
it is, so if you remove your numbers, Dungeon Meshi has a 66 percentage, and a Sign of Affection has a 77. So it does still have the highest percentages, but you also have to consider where Mason and Michael drop off from Sign of Affection is later, where it becomes more difficult for it to drop farther down.
No.
Right?
With mine removed, I don't think I had Hokkaido or them up there, but it would boost the overall percentages of Hokkaido Mr. Villain being.
Hokkaido goes
100%,
down,
correct?
and Mr. Villains goes up. Hokkaido actually does go down if you take yours out, because you do have Hokkaido in spots.
What's
throughout
Mr.
the-
Villain sitting at in that number? I'm just curious. 'Cause I like data.
It goes up from the number doesn't change at all. So instead of being 12 out of 36, it's 12 out of 27. So it goes up to 44.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Okay.
Cool. But I mean, I also ran the numbers with my stuff pulled out, because I thought it was interesting, because I thought that would be the other one that would be slightly interesting to see.
So like both of us pulled out, so
Yeah.
it's just Michael.
No.
and Mason.
If you keep you in, but you pull me out, because if you pull us both
Probably
out,
doesn't really
it's
change much. It just flips Dungeon Meshi and.
No,
Effect.
it
They both
doesn't,
have just
actually.
top two
If
the
it-
entire way, right?
no, it doesn't. Sign of Dungeon Meshi still sits at a 70. It sits at a 70%, and a Sign of Affection actually goes up if you pull my stuff out for it. It winds up having an 85.
That's funny.
And then actually
There's a season I'd wanna look at
number's
these
off.
numbers
It
for, but
should
it's
be
so far back.
it
and
should
it'd be so much
be-
harder to count.
it should be one lower than that. But it's still like an 83 percentage. And if you pull my numbers out, Mr. Villains goes up from the original, but doesn't go up as high as yours does. And Hokkaido goes up slightly. So it winds up
think
being
I
a
had a-
25 percentage.
We're all pretty high.
Because I was Hokkaido's biggest enemy throughout the season.
Surprisingly, I was not the biggest enemy of both the shows that I didn't want.
Perhaps you should have been. Is the lesson we were learning.
I did exactly what I could, Sean. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying,
like I
perhaps
said, I will die on the hill
you and me, John,
that
we need to be more
through-
Slay happy next
Listen,
season if we
Listen,
want
I
to
slayed
prevent.
everything I could when I wanted to. My only statement on the whole situation is, obviously I was tilted about it. Obviously not happy about it, right? And I do think that it's very fair to argue that there is not much debate to say that one, if not both of those shows, were not as good through 11 episodes as A Sign of Affection, if you're looking at holistically.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was annoyed about it, especially going into the top three, like, last episode kind of thing.
I get that, and where I wound up sitting at it after finishing everything was,
Like, it's whatever.
Um,
It's what
I
it is.
think-
Wasn't gonna win anyways, but like
I think I think that is the takeaway, is that
I don't know. I haven't watched the episode, but like
I think
I doubt you three would have voted Sign
No.
of Affection in first place. Period.
I don't
No.
I don't
And I'm
I
not-
can't imagine
And I'm
it
not one to
beating
throw
Dungeon
votes
Meshi
by
for
throwing
us.
Dungeon Meshi in third when I think it's better than the other two shows here. So
Yeah, that's the
like
that is unfortunately the sitting seat, is that, like, and I think we would really have a problem if that wasn't the case, right?
I mean, it would be hard to convince you guys that it's a better show than Dungeon Meshi from the previous 11 episodes too. So it's like the only person that compared them closely as much as I did would be you, Sean. And then at that point, I can't guarantee, like, if it's a Mr. Villains in top three, I don't know if it.
No,
goes
I don't.
above Mr. Villains
I
based on
I
the
legit
period.
don't know if
And so it's
I
like-
even put Sign of Affection
or even like
above
this.
Mr. Villain by the end of the season, which is the thing. Because while I like a lot of what a Sign of Affection does, I do think it loses a little bit on that tail end. Just because of how it decides to tell its story and what it chooses to do with its last couple episodes. I don't think it hits as strong as some of the other stuff we have at the very end. Which I think is important in the structure of the podcast. Like, you want to either be, like, arguably, the best thing you can do on the podcast is be a really good show that has a kind of mid-middle. I think. Because, like, you don't want to have a weak beginning. Because if you are in a very close playing field, you don't want to have a weak beginning. If you have some really obvious garbage, like, you can get away with a weak beginning, but then you need a strong middle, and then you also need a strong end to get all the way there. Obviously,
Yeah, that we call that 86.
We call it Sasaki and Miyano.
I want to look at 86's stats for this, because 86 for me didn't break top 3 until week like 7,
yeah, that is one of the seasons.
and 86
I have
tied
not
for
done
first
yet.
that season. No, because we had 5, so it physically couldn't tie for. However,
Yeah.
we voted. I don't think it.
That
could
is
for
why I didn't do anything beyond the Vanitas season, is because we have more people, so the stats get different.
Yeah, it's also different people.
Yeah, whereas like otherwise this has been completely
And
consistent.
Mason's a much different voter than Jackman.
And Jackman and DJ.
And
were-
Dylan. Never forget.
Oh man, Dylan's a legend though. We love Dylan.
So let me just do the last.
I miss him, man.
Want to get
Miss
the
him every
real.
day.
Want to get the real numbers here. 3. Okay. Yep. So then we are looking at a full first place sweep for Dungeon Meshi, 12 points across the board, 7 for Mr. Villains, and 5 for Hokkaido Gal. So that puts them in that order. First place Dungeon Meshi, second Mr. Villains, third Hokkaido Gals. And that do be the way that it goes this season.
Congratulations, Sean.
I
You finally won one.
got one.
You did it.
It's been so long.
Proud of you.
I mean, the takeaway is we all got to watch Dungeon Meshi.
Dungeon
Uh,
Meshi.
and
Blast.
that-
Did watch Dungeon Meshi.
That is the key.
Pretty good.
With this, pretty good. Might be good. Could be good.
Could be fun.
Could be
We
fun.
fun?
Watching Dungeon
I had a
Meshi.
lot of fun last
Could be
week.
fun. So, ladies and gentlemen, that means we're gonna do a nice quick transition in.
Alright.
You guys understand I haven't looked at anything in regards to the season
Oh.
yet, so it's gonna go great.
I know. So we got a
But then I
nice.
can pick
So are we
first.
starting up a second stream to do this picking, or are we just ending off the first stream?
I reasonably probably should. So
I'm pretty sure you have
guys,
done that,
can we
but
get
there's no reason I say it.
for Sean for he gets to control the wheel this year?
I
Yay,
do. It's gonna make
Sean!
formatting this stream so much easier. So
For the
guys,
first time,
no,
Sean
he
gets to control the wheel. He's
Yeah,
never done
yeah.
that before.
No, he could.
Because he's always a
no,
loser.
no, he always controls it for picking shows. I thought.
No.
No,
it's
no.
whoever did it
It's
last.
whoever wins. Usually
Yeah,
me
whichever
or
one,
Mason,
yeah.
yeah, the
because we
person who
always
wins
have won
spins the
last
wheel.
week.
So it's been Mason for like the past 2 years.
Because I thought the bit was always that Mason specifically did sleigh wheels. That's also just because I'm just
But
remembering
Mason does do
most of the
sleigh
time being
wheels
the one who does.
because
I do
I
like
don't feel like
wheels.
bringing it up in the middle of the podcast. So you know what? We're gonna give John a second to take a look through all the shows.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna look at.
Well,
them
we're
one
gonna
time.
let you
It's fine.
take a look through some of the shows while
No, it's fine.
I'm gonna
I'll
end
look at
stream
that.
and we're
No,
gonna
sure.
bring it back up so that we have the official VOD for selecting shows for